I was thinking this morning, um, what do I have to offer these parents? And the prototype of this family dynamic is two parents still together, stressed. Maybe the marriage is a little strained by what's going on. 17 to 22-year-old child, male or female, that's fallen down the rabbit hole, and they don't even know how far, but opiates seem to be part of it. Okay. Now, think of the continuum there. There's the family where the kid's been doing heroin daily for a long time, and there's a lot of stealing going on, and they're worried about the phone call around the clock. That's one extreme. The other extreme is we knew he was kind of smoking pot, or she was smoking pot or something, and then we found some paraphernalia, and we assume there's some heroin use, but we're not sure how much. And maybe that youngster dabbled, and parents don't know what to make of that or what to do. And so they all need help. All those parents need help, and they need help being helpful.
Mm-hmm.
They need help at being helpful. And what's sort of doubly painful about that circumstance is the state of the industry as they look to get help. All the unscrupulous, operators of facilities and programs out there, and certainly not everybody's unscrupulous, but a lot of them are. And the parent makes a phone call and falls into the trap, and you know exactly what I'm talking about.
I've worked in a few traps.
And so that family has some legitimate fear about relying on the professional community, which really sucks. But it is part of the landscape, and they need to be mindful of that, or they could really blow it unintentionally. So how to offer help that will allow them to be helpful, how to offer help that will support them in getting the right kind of help, taking it further. And so I was thinking what I understand about emotions and how to just sort of guide them about some of the basics, some of the basics of the mindset they should have and the strategies they should try, the attitude, the hopes and expectations, that sort of thing. They should be clear, just related to what we're saying about the industry, the professional community, that I can honestly say that the quality of individual service providers and programs, so the therapists and then programs which exist in your neighborhood and are all over the country, vary in quality from A to Z or triple Z. A to triple Z. We need more letters in the alphabet to talk about how bad it can get. And just like if you're in a pickle legally, you want a good lawyer, you definitely want good clinicians and a good program in the end. If you're going to do an intervention, you want a good interventionist. If you're going to look into psychiatry for some support, you want a good psychiatrist. If you want some psychotherapy, you want a really good psychotherapist. If you want to do some assessment of your child's addiction status, their condition, you want an expert at assessing that. And so don't be fooled thinking it's all sort of the same. It varies really widely. Caveat emptor, buyer beware. Make sure you do your homework. Personal referrals from people who know or have had experience, probably the most reliable source for picking and choosing, supporting that challenge. Just to kind of put that out there. So, keeping that in mind. But now here I have my teenager or my young adult child, and I know there's a problem. I'm not sure of the scope. I want to do something. I'm not sure what to do. Am I part of the problem? That upsetting question, that troubling question. So I was giving this some thought, and the first thing that came to mind is kind of related to the idea of people's naivete about suicide. Lay people and naive clinicians are often afraid to use the word with people. As if I bring up the idea of suicide, I'll give it to the depressed person for the first time. And then it'll be my fault they suicided because I used the word. And I don't think it has ever worked that way. And if it ever worked that way, it was once or twice. And so the odds are infinitesimal that using the word will give them the idea for the first time. And so talking frankly with your kids and using those, potentially explosive or conflict-laden terms like addict and using and drugs, and don't be afraid of the words. Don't be afraid of the words. And if you're afraid of the words, the use of words and their impact, you can understand why communication is stilted and ineffective. This is not a time for word shyness to get the last word. In other words, if ever there was a time for brutal honesty, it's when this is happening.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we've confronted him and it just ends in conflict and blows up and people slamming doors, and okay, that's not exactly the outcome you were hoping for, but you still might be on the right track, or the rightest available track. Because you have to give up the idea that what you do controls the outcome in terms of your child's behaviors. Yes, I could put my 17-year-old in a facility against his will. That doesn't control his behavior, it controls his whereabouts. And while he's there, he might develop new tricks on how to get drugs. And trust me, you put him in certain facilities, he's got access to drugs.
That's right.
So while you have some power to put the body somewhere, you do not ever have the power to control somebody else's mind. And parents in their effort to get their children to understand have this unspoken belief that maybe they could find the right words or do the right thing that will flip the switch. I don't think that the hope for that is totally misplaced. But the unrelenting effort at that when it's not working is a problem. And so if you're trying something over and over again and you see it's not working, you need to try something else. Well, parents don't necessarily feel like they got a lot of tricks up their sleeve. Those families that are already arguing like crazy about this, they need some third-party help if they can get it. They're fighting a righteous war for their child's life. You don't just quit because it's frustrated. But what you do to win a benevolent war like that is you find whatever tools or instruments work the best. That's your job. And, the enemy here is not your child. Right? You're not fighting the child. You're fighting the addiction devil inside your child. Right? That's what you're fighting. And would you like to kill that? Well, sure, although this is a symbiotic relationship. You can't necessarily kill that devil without killing the actual child, because it's sort of taken over. And the child you knew is now the host for this devil. I mean, that's one way to kind of look at it. Right? And I often think of therapy when it's really working a little like an exorcism. We're getting the evil spirits out of you. But those evil spirits are not the devil per se. It's the devilish things that we're doing inside ourselves to address our relationship to pain, especially, but our relationship to the world. The pain that the world is causing us. And make no mistake, even though your kid is acting like it's all fun and adventure and a good time, and I'm only hurting me, they're not just having a good time. It's not just about adventure. When addiction happens, the lion's share of what causes people to be stuck in the addictive process is pain management or pain control. And you know that, because you've sat here long enough. Pain management or pain control. So some of the youngsters that sit here and shrug off the idea of their having any pain, and then you talk to them for 5 or 10 minutes, and, well, you got this pain and that pain and the other pain, it's pretty obvious. Oh, well, I thought you meant like really serious pain. I think adolescence gives every single adolescent enough serious pain just being the shift from childhood to young adulthood, or quasi pseudo adulthood. It's amazing how most of us as adults don't realize that. When I was a teenager, life sucked a lot too. Now, it could be great on Wednesday and then horrible on Thursday. Yeah, I looked bipolar. Right? And I do think anybody that gets diagnosed as bipolar before age 18, that somebody's making a diagnostic mistake there.